God, there's 5,000 pages. Here's a search one. Okay, let's just check all. Why is it bringing me back here? This is a very unintuitive game, James. Even when I was just kind of like trying to pick up and play it, I'm in the search bar right here. Okay. How in the world can I search for, say, James Romero or anything like that? Good Lord. This is a very, very unintuitive game. You understand noting or nothing, James? I swear I've played video games before. So, perform a directional light attack, hold the L. I'm hitting a triangle. I'm not reversing anything. All right. Oh, I don't even know how I completed the objective, but here I am. Just gotta get my stuff in. That's what's going on. Man, this is like actually going to wrestling school. They don't give you any idea. All right, is it me? Please, somebody tell me, is it me? So just like a true wrestling fashion, I don't know how to complete a basic combination in fundamental wrestling, but I'll just hit a package pile driver out of nowhere. Enough of that.
I was desperate to love this game. Like, I was willing to overlook a lot. I really was, because I really wanted to get into it, because I want a game that I can just drop in for 10 minutes, 20 minutes when I've got a bit of time, then get out again. You know, just like the pick up and play and leave. I was willing to give this some leniency. I really was. And then it's just made me realize why I've not picked up a wrestling game, a new one, since WWE 13. Probably, ironically or coincidentally, the last one was CM Punk on it, in fact. But the reason I stopped buying the SmackDown versus Raw games was because I couldn't remember why until I picked up this game. And for that, they started introducing mini games, you know, for the submissions and whatnot. And I remember that is why I stopped buying them and kind of gave up. When was the last time you bought a WWE mainline wrestling game?
Oh, wow. I'd have to say probably I got a code for it. I think it was 13 or 14 or both of those that we were getting codes at one point to play the game. I do remember 13 because of Punk being on the cover. And I believe it was 14 and 15. So probably the last year I really was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and play this game. Before this one was 15. And wow, I wanted to love it too. And by the way, what you just said about dropping in, playing for 10, 15 minutes, kind of pick up and play and then go about your day. It reminds me of that scene from the Bronx Tale in the bar. You're like, oh, I'm going to come in here and just play for 10, 15 minutes. And the mob guy goes up and locks the door, basically TKO, and says, now you can't leave. You're stuck. Because you're not picking this thing up for 10 or 15 minutes, even in tutorial mode. You're not picking this up and then going with that.
Dude, is that the Steven Seagal one where he beats someone up with a pool ball and a sock?
No, that was Out for Justice. Anybody seen Richie?
Oh.
Yeah, now he hit the guy when he goes.
Who's in the Bronx Tale?
Bronx Tale was Robert De Niro, Chad, I forget his last name. And the bikers went into the bar and then started really causing trouble. And the guy was like, all right, you guys leave, and like make us leave or whatever. Locks the door and he says, now you can't leave. You have to play WWE 2K26, and they all begged off.
And they're still there. That's on my list to watch. I saw it only recently. I've never seen it.
You know what we should do? Put an overlay of the mobsters beating up the bikers, and then the icon comes up with a triangle, but it says late as you're trying to counter. Late.
Early. Right. We'll get to that soon. Okay. I'm going to say this, Stevie. You tell me if I'm wrong. This game is so fundamentally not fun to play for, at least for adults of a certain age, of our age, who have got jobs and families and stuff like that, because you need to invest so much time to even get the basics down and not have to keep looking them up. I liken it to the exact opposite of Tekken. You can pick up Tekken, you can button mash, you'll know how to block, you'll know how to run, you'll know how to do the basic grapples, and then over time you learn the more intricate stuff, and, you know, it's like easy to start, difficult to master, that kind of thing. This is unbelievably difficult to start, and then I played it over as much as I could do, throughout the last week, I kept forgetting how to do basic things, like leave the ring. And there's still things after like over a dozen hours of playing, I still can't remember how to do. Like, I have to stop and think about how to get somebody in the fall-away slam position to, like, try and throw them over the ropes. Like, it doesn't even have an option to just grab somebody and push them, just throw them headfirst through the ropes. I don't think it's got that option. No Mercy does. But everything about it is, there's such a high barrier of entry with this. And I went through the entire tutorial mode in a single session. And then I redid it all the way through because I couldn't remember all the different things that I had to do for it. It's so complicated to do anything in it, realistically speaking.
I had told you, and I said to Chris, and he couldn't stop laughing when I said it, but it's true. It was actually easier for me to actually, in real life, learn how to wrestle than play this game. So that's the way I feel right now. And you might be like, well, you got to give it time. You got to you've given more hours, but I've given enough hours, at least in tutorial mode, where I'm hitting the button when you're telling me to hit it, even when it doesn't say late or anything like that, it still doesn't have me progress further in the tutorial mode. Now, I want to say this about controls, because I think we're going to stay on that for a little bit. I can compare it to, say, I played SmackDown versus Raw. I played Raw 1, Raw 2 on the original Xbox. But the analogies I use would be these three games. Giant Graham 2000, which is basically All Japan Wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling 4. These two are for the Dreamcast. The third one is the Fire Pro series. So you can have Fire Pro Returns, the previous ones on Super Famicom, if you played on Six Man Scramble on Sega Saturn, or Fire Pro Wrestling World, which, by the way, I just saw on Steam. It's actually for the entire bundle of everything is 80% off $12. And I have a theory that they did that on purpose with this, because it's an easy buy, even at 61 for everything, but the base game is $6. Getting back to the controls. This with Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Double Dragon, whatever game you want to play, whether it's fighting, wrestling, even sports games like football. There's something, and I don't know the exact term, but there's a discovery element to something when you hit a button or you're in a position or part of the ring or on the second or top rope or whatever, where something happens and you go, well, wait a minute. How did I do that? That was so cool. And now you are kind of motivated to discover how that control works, what you can do, and you can Google, but at the same time, you're in the match and you're excited. And that happens a lot in Fire Pro, especially when tag team, 6-man, guys in the corner or something that has these different types of situational moves and movesets. With Giant Graham 2000, and back then I thought this was really hard, but intuitive. You lock up. If you want to push the guy down for a power bomb, you take the analog and push it down. You pull him in, then you can hit a button combination or a button to do a move. Same thing when you're whipping somebody in the ropes, and I'll pass it to you because you have a story about this. You whip them into the ropes, and you can do different running moves or grab them for a power slam or your favorite, the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. You have a lot of experience with it. But even in Giant Graham 2000, I revisited it on my Steam Deck, and I'm like, oh my goodness. One more example, New Japan Pro Wrestling 4. Jushin Thunder Liger is the person you should pick. There's sometimes where Liger will go up and hit a moonsault, and you keep doing that, but then when the opponent's in a particular position in the match, and you go up to that corner, he hits like that corkscrew thing, like AJ with the Spinal Tap. Remember that, where it's not a moonsault, but you twist and you land on the dude? And I'm still to this day, like, I don't know the exact situation or positioning, but when it comes out, I'm like, oh my God, I got it. But I don't feel frustrated like, oh, it's just not going to happen. Because there's 5 other things, even in 2026, where I'm like, well, wait a minute, I never saw that before. And that makes the replayability of these games really, really shine.
Let's get to the
Oh,
tutorial.
you got to tell me about the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker.
Oh, we'll get there. No, that's in the second section. I made sure to write that down. Okay, immediately initial impressions. You have to sign up to 2K. I hate that.
Oh, I hated that. Hated it. What am I doing? I bought the game. Why do I have to? Now you need my information.
No, you've got to have the end user agreement, so therefore you've already spent up to what $160 or whatever for the main game. We will get to that, I assure you. And then you have to give them your. There's even a bit right where you're creating your own player if you want to, and then it gives you the face recognition thing. Take a photo of your face, and they'll put on the thing. It's like, oh yeah. So not only are you not content with my name and like I was going to give my real name and address in that, but your personal information. They also want your likeness.
Yeah. You know what? I commend, even at his age, that Tony Aguirre signed up for a 2K account.
Very good. 5-time tag team champion.
The ultimate
you had the most cutting thing.
Move. The ultimate
You had the most cutting
move.
thing before, and say, see, the best tag teams always have a difference between them. Like Tony Aguirre and Rick Martel. One was great, one sucked.
Oh, you like that?
I love that. That made me so happy.
They complement each other perfectly.
Hey, well, five-time tag team champion.
Hey, what's this 2K account email doing for verification in my email?
Did you
josiedoe@gmail.com is what I signed up.
Did you burst out laughing when you heard Triple H? Immediately.
I was like, that was the least of my worries at the time.
No,
looking back on it.
All right, let's get to some of the things I've written down. You take over whenever you want, of course. Impossibly complicated. So this is all tutorial. So it took me forever to get through the introductory lessons. I never remembered how to do half the things because there's so much to remember. And then there must have been at least 4 separate times when I was doing exactly what it told me and it wasn't reacting. How? You had the exact same thing on your test stream.
I was just stuck on this one thing, and I kept hitting the button like it told me to do, and it just would not register. And I'm like, is there latency? Is there lag? Is there some kind of, I'm not playing online against anybody, or maybe there is a heartbeat online after you sign up for the 2K account. I don't know what it was, but it became to a point, I haven't, the stream, I must have tried it a dozen times. And I was asking people, like, what am I doing? Like, what is good? I'm sure you were asking yourself, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm hitting the button. I just want to progress in this.
There was something else as well, right? So with the running, I found you whip someone into the corner, let's say, and then you're trying to run toward them. But then if you like 1 degree off with the joystick, you're like, like I was like running in like a wiggly worm line to try and get to some of these people, and I missed sometimes.
Yeah,
and they were a static. Here's the thing, and I'm going to bring up No Mercy so many times here, because it's still the flag bearer for me. I missed the tank controls and switching between opponents, because at the very least, you could just press run and the rest was done for you. You could concentrate on how you're going to attack them. Whereas this one, it almost feels like, like that electric buzzer game where you've got like that, like a stick with a metal thing with a loop over it, and you're trying to do that and, not touch the sides. It's kind of the same as that.
Oh, Operation.
No, it's not Operation, but it's a similar thing. Do you know what I mean? You have like a very long metal line, like wire, and you're not supposed to touch at any point because it'll buzz or electric shock you or whatever. The running's really hard in it, and it's like that's so fundamental that you can't get the running right where it just like works.
That's the only thing missing from the game is that they'll do an electric shock to the controller to make it even more of an unpleasant experience.
Dude, I didn't even write this down right. The L2 button, when I was trying to do whatever I was trying to do with L2, kept like getting stuck. And this is like not the haptic feedback, but it was like the game was telling me not to depress it for some reason. I don't know if it was because I was tired in the game, despite doing nothing. I don't know if the game just decided I shouldn't be pressing that button for whatever reason. I don't even know what L2 does off the top of my head.
I feel like we suffered virtually from the glass ceiling. It wouldn't allow us to learn moves or do anything.
I've just realized my light behind me was on a battery, so I'll have to sort that out soon, right? Okay, the amount of mini games. How many mini games off the top of your head can you remember?
Dude, it's all blur. I mean, I just looking through the modes alone, but talk about the mini games some more, because it became, I'm just giving people an overarching theme. You get to a point very early on where you're like, I literally have to pick my battles on what I invest my time in. And didn't that feel that way for you?
Right, okay, so the chain wrestling, right? Or the chain wrestling especially. So you have to pick, like, shove or push or switch or wrench or whatever it is. You get like these different options. And then in between about 15 seconds of you picking this in the game during the match, and then having to do this mini game where you have to like find the right degree on the joystick to press to then like swell up the attack ball of energy. And then if you do it quicker than the other person, you do the next move. That could take 2 minutes. That's not fun. Do you remember a game? It's not Black Rain, Heavy Rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is what that was. It was just one great big, press square here and then do it to open the drawer and then do to open the door. And it's like, this isn't fun.
You know where I think they got that from? And this is an EA game. I think that analog type control, especially for pinfalls, trying to kick out, submissions, all this stuff, they got that from the UFC games, I think. It's not a one-to-one analogy, but do you remember playing the UFC games and you had to do this to move around and get the submission or fight it? It was like analog based, not like the older days where even in Fire Pro and the other ones, you hit the buttons and you mash them to give yourself enough energy to kick out.
Undisputed. I thought Undisputed was a really good game though. It wasn't like that. Like the later EA UFC
The
games
later
I never
EA
played.
UFC, the earlier UFC games were really. I still play Fight Night, as a matter of fact. Fight Night Champion there's a few Fight Night games that are based on the analog ones that are really, really good.
Dude, Fight Night 4 was loads of fun. Loads of fun.
360?
Because all you did was just do it that was on the 360, yeah.
Okay.
And all you did was just like throw as many jabs because you never tired out. So it's just like me and my mate would be Tyson and Ali, and it'd be 5 rounds of just like. Did you ever see Hearns versus? It was the real fight.
Hagler or Ray
Hagler.
Yeah, no, Hagler.
Yeah, it was Marvin Hagler versus Hitman Hearns, and it was just 3 rounds of just absolute rock'em sock'em.
Did you ever knock anybody out?
That was on Fight Night every time.
Did you ever knock anybody out in the corner? You know, they do the replays, but knock them out in the corner and they're not on the ground, but they're there, and you just keep giving them uppercuts as they're in the corner, knocked down in the replays, just like it's the Simpsons scene. Stop, he's already dead.
That was only one minigame, by the way. That's the chain wrestling minigame. Then there is the pin minigame, of which you can have like 2 separate ones, I think, and you get to choose it. Then there is the, we'll get to the pre-match choosing of on the HUD, the menu in that. But then there was also, what other minigames were there? There's more. The submission minigames.
Well, they're kind of an expansion of a tutorial thing. You're talking about the pin, the chain wrestling, and other things. But then there's since we're sticking to controls, you just said there's something comes up in the HUD where the directional type, like in the corner before the match even starts. There's a lot of stuff that made me feel like I wasn't in full control of the game anyway, which would have been a good thing because I sucked at the controls. But at the same time, there's a lot of elements that made it feel like it was a Telltale series game where I just, like in the opening, I'm like, well, okay, I'll just pick this. And then it goes through a cutscene. Then I got to pick this. Then we start the match. And it felt like there was a lot of times that things were broken up by a control thing coming up on the screen, other stuff. But it felt very unintuitive. And I didn't feel like I was ever truly in control of playing the game. Did you feel that way?
Yeah. I like it. Like at the beginning, it's like, press right to jumpstart match. Press up to stare down. Press left. It's like, I don't care. Just get to the thing. Like I turned entrances off. Immediately I went to that. The mini games are just atrocious. That's why I stopped playing them in the first place, these games. Throughout the tutorial, I couldn't work out the direction and circle constantly because you have to tap them slightly apart from each other and not simultaneously. And I forgot how to do submissions because R2 and then circle is not intuitive. There are so many things to do here that involves a direction, a shoulder button, and then one of the main 4 buttons. And I kept forgetting them. Like, at no point, I had to remember them before, like, 10 seconds, like, go through my head. Okay, this does that. I shall now perform this move. And then by the time I try it, I've been reversed on the easiest mode.
Like I said, you're probably better off just learning how to actually wrestle in real life because there's less steps to thing. You can keep it much simpler than that. But yeah, that was the the thing too is there were times in the actual game, you know, when you hit triangle for a counter or a reversal block or whatever, it'll tell you if you're late, especially. I was mostly late. But even when I hit it, it just didn't. I don't know if there's any kind of, like I said before, if there's any bug fixes where the latency or responsiveness of hitting the button or hitting the controls for certain things are off, and if they're going to fix that. Maybe we're the only ones, but it felt like it happened so often because I was expecting it. I'm getting hit or whipped into the corner. Either triangle or square would come up in that quick, like split second, and I would hit it and it wouldn't say late, but it wouldn't do it.
I think there are 4 separate buttons ultimately that you can use to reverse. I think R1 might have been one of them as well. So you've got square, circle, triangle, and R1 that you have to press at the exact right time to reverse a move. It's like, how do you even comprehend at the heat of the moment which button to do? Like, I think you kind of stuck with triangle if it was striking, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
or you
mostly
could do
triangle.
square.
Triangle, if it was striking, came up a lot. Square came up if you were whipped into the corner and they were coming up and you could throw an elbow or something up. But right away, I never thought the day would come where I would miss button mashing, just mindless button mashing to counter or get energy, kick out, do those kinds of things. But this felt so slow and prodding. And how many times you're watching what's going on, do you have to look down and make sure your fingers are going to do that combination or other things, and you have to break from looking at that. And we're pretty familiar with the PlayStation controllers, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, well, I came from Nintendo and the X is somewhere else and the A is somewhere else. We're not switching systems. We've been on these for quite a while.
I need to mention this as well. Flying attacks from the turnbuckle are direction, like going onto the turnbuckle is, I think, direction and R1, right? But going through the ropes are direction and L1. And it's like, you do not need 2 separate buttons to do essentially the same thing, to leave the ring or get on the post. No Mercy had 1 button. And you know what? It always worked.
Positioning
So now
wise, where you were in the ring or out of the ring.
Yeah, you just do the direction to where you want to go. And here's something else which chaps my ass about this, is that if you go on the ring apron, I don't think you can get on the turnbuckle from the ring apron. I kept trying. So you have to go back in the ring to then climb on the turnbuckle. Maybe I'm wrong, but I tried time and again, and I couldn't get it. And if I've been through the tutorial twice, and I don't know how to do it. And here's the other thing. If your game needs to constantly have prompts on screen to tell you what to do, then it's too complicated.
No, I agree with that. And I know Fire Pro, Giant Graham, New Japan, as well as there's another guy. I think even, well, you talk about No Mercy. I talk about WCW Revenge. That's my favorite with that. But you're right. There's something to be said about, like, nobody climbs up from the inside. Usually they go to the ring apron and then up. And I thought we would have a whole set of moves for the ring apron where people can break their necks and their backs nice and clean. Because in real life, they use that apron like it's the middle of the ring. But yeah, there's little things like that, like you just said. And what I said was the controls are basic for these other games I'm talking about, but positioning, energy, where your spirit level or whatever you want to call it is, your health, where that is and how strong you are, is it a heavy move, a light move, a medium move? These are just if then if this, then do this. It's a very simplistic way of programming, but that discovery mode, like you just said, if I'm on the ring apron with this person, there should be moves or I should be able to go up to the top and do these things. But yeah, there seems to be a button. What's the word you look at? The analogy you talked about before was like the Slim Jim tables. There's a thing that's looking for a match. I don't know how I would verbalize it, but it's almost like instead of you discovering the move through these same controls in different positioning situations and all that stuff, it's like they just tried to find a control for every single thing and just overlap it into everything.
How do you feel about this? I felt that the ring was a bit too small.
I don't know about that.
It's probably like for like, but I don't know what it was. It just felt like the ring was a bit small. I was always bumping into the ropes. Speaking of bumping into the ropes, did you try and bounce off the ropes to then get momentum to hit somebody, only for your character to grab the rope?
Every single time.
Infuriating. I like bouncing off the ropes. Why does it do that?
You're blocking your own offensive move.
Oh,
yeah.
This game sucks.
Because I do that in every game I just mentioned. You can run, bounce off, and maybe it doesn't mean anything, but it'd be cool if I could run off the ropes and hit a clothesline or a cross body. Even, dude, even Matt Mania, way back in the day, the arcade, you run off the ropes and you can do a cross body. You run off the ropes, they hit the big lariat. You can run off the ropes and hit a drop kick. Even Retromania Wrestling, very much between WrestleFest, Matt Mania, and other controls, very simple.
I just can't believe I hate this game so much. Did you try the immersive camera mode, at least in the tutorial?
No, I didn't get that far.
Oh, well, here's what's interesting, is the right stick, analog stick, joystick, whatever you want to call it, then acts as the camera, right? The entire, so it's like a 360 camera that you control at all times. Here's the problem with that, though, is that you also need the right stick to do things like pin your opponent. So what you end up having to do is any action that you take with the right analog stick, I was calling it a joystick before, analog stick, is that you then have to depress R2 at the same time and then do all the other actions with the right stick and whatever buttons. So therefore, you could be using up to 4 different things on the controller at one point to do like a pin or to pick somebody up. I was like, that is the answer. Okay, you created a problem that no one's asked for with this camera thing, and then created a really stupid integration and then solution. But let's keep on moving on. The momentum between the wrestlers can and cannot.
Right there.
Yes.
Just speaking of controls. By the way, in the immersive, when the HUDs, the Ratrons are stopping you to hit a button, it's not very immersive, in general. I played the flight sim game with that big controller with the throttle and the switches. It literally felt simple. Like learning how to fly felt more simple and easy to understand than this game.
The momentum between when wrestlers can and cannot build up offensive moves isn't good, and stuff just happens. It's very arcade-like, and apparently you can get exhausted from successfully reversing moves. How does that work? Like, okay, you've somehow managed to guess, like, hope against hope. You press triangle at the right time to block the punch or the move or whatever. It's not so much the punches. You can kind of guess when to block those. It's the grapple moves that are the problem, because the reversal point is kind of random. So you have to know every move that's being done to you and then where that reversal point is to press. You press it one time too late, you lose the option to reverse. You press it too late, you press it too late. And you can't button mash as well. But then you've got so there's like a winded mechanic as well. So if you're tired, you don't run as much. And I swear, these wrestlers were getting winded after about 10 seconds of running the ropes.
Which in real life, they sell nothing, and they have energy at the end of every match. So it's not really reality-based.
So that wasn't reality either. Okay, you can't run backwards into the ropes. That was the most infuriating things. There were also other things like these, I found it hard to find out how to slide under the ropes. That's like every single game. You could do that. And I think eventually I worked it out, but this is like 10 hours in, where I was just pressing L1 and climbing to the L1s. And when you're doing that, the other problem is that all these animations are really slow. So when you're getting in and out of the ring, it's like down. Kane could just jump over the top rope and just, and go straight down there. But I kept playing as Bron Breakker. I told you this beforehand. So I wanted to get used to one person's moves. And he's moving like he's geriatric out there, getting in and out of the ropes and climbing up the top rope.
The guy that runs 22 miles an hour.
23. Says on his tights, 23 miles an hour, and he's sluggish in the game. If they could have made create the sense of speed in Sonic the Hedgehog in 1989, right? But now they can't do it in 2026. I'm trying to think. Oh, I still don't know.
So he's basically not even moving at 23 frames per second.
Yeah, they are dragging this out, and I still don't know how to bounce off the ropes onto my opponent. You know, like a Cape Brada, you know, the lion salt or something. I did it twice in the tutorial. I eventually got through it, and I still don't know how to do it now because it was too complicated, and I don't know how to jump from inside the ring to the outside over the ropes. I still don't know how to do that, and I kept looking it up. I kept trying it, and it wouldn't do it. This shouldn't be this hard. Why people are giving this an 8 out of 10 is that they're either lying, they're being paid to say that it's an 8 out of 10 game, or they have no experience with good games. None.
Yeah.
This is borderline unplayable.
Yeah, all of them are. You were mentioning like you're mixing up the worst of both worlds or multiple features of this. You say some stuff is arcade-like in the worst sense of the way, worst sense of the word. Then it's deep simulation, RPG, very deep controls. I didn't say intuitive because that is definitely not a word to associate with this game. In all the worst ways possible, it almost creates a barrier instead of immersion. It's let's just say right off the bat, if we didn't have plans to do an episode based on this game or even plan a charity stream or anything else, there is no way on this earth that we would have bought this game. We would definitely looked at the reviews first. I would never bought it at all.
Well, I would have been fooled by the reviews because a lot of them are positive. I don't get it. Okay, right. Let's go to the gameplay. We've got to rush through this. I've got another page before we even get to my GM mode, which I've got my own issues with. Gameplay. My first singles match I ever had a run-in, which ended up being a fake run-in because the music for someone else played and no one ever came out. And because I'm apparently a dumbass in my character, Bron Breakker just stood there drooling, looking at the entrance for 20 seconds, and then the other guy attacked me. And it's like, yeah, I know no one's coming in. Can we just, I'm not trying to simulate in this a television show. I'm trying to win a match because it's a fighting game. But we've got all this crap going on.
But that was like a cutscene then, right? Where you had to look at it for 20 seconds. Yes. And you jumped.
But yes, it was a cutscene that I couldn't get out of. Picking weapons is a bit of a chore. The first time I set up a ladder, my character refused to climb it. I don't know why. Wrestlers stay down. Right, this is for the gameplay. Here's what really also gets my goat. From the off, if you clothesline someone, right? Like, let's say it's the first move, and you give them a strong clothesline. They're down for 20 seconds. They are not getting up. And every single interaction, if you hit a slam, you hit a punch that knocks them down, you just don't get up from it. You can do sometimes you go instant recovery, press R1 or whatever. But for the most part, you're just lying there like a slug, 30 seconds in, and it slowed the pace down immediately.
Did that bother you, by the way? At any indiscriminate point in time, you can just no-sell everything, or they can no-sell everything, and they kip up or do something like that.
Yeah, just press R1, instant recovery.
Why is it placed there? What's the parameters for instant recovery? I mean, it's not like Hogan hulking up or Cornette in that Patreon watch-along hulking up or any of that stuff. That's what I mean. There's no why to any of this stuff except, I can just get up because I'm just been laying here and I can finally hit R1.
There was, we already mentioned this, 4 different buttons to reverse moves depending on the move, and you can't button mash. We already said that. I also want to count out, in one of the matches I had, I was wrestling Rocky Maivia. I whipped him into the barricade, and it was on 6, on a 6 count. It was just a whip into the barricade. It was not a big deal. The referee starts slowing up the counts, go 9, and then wait, so counted him out. From a whip into the barricade, and it was early in the match. And I just walked into the ring and just stood there and won. There's the recovery from big moves is, all small moves, is so out of whack.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had one match where I went to the outside, not knowing if I had to. I was just on the outside. I literally got punched. I bumped, and I'm hitting the buttons trying to get up. No R1 instant recovery, and I got counted out. And that was off a punch on count 4. And they did the 9. Between 9 and 10 is a good 3 seconds, right? It's something obnoxious, and you're laying there and you're still not getting up.
Where were we? A whipped opponent toward you. It seems no matter what button I pressed, whether the attack or grapple, it was always a tilt-a-whirl slam. And in some instances, I didn't even initiate a whip. Didn't initiate it at all. So I don't know if this is just one of the moves that Braun Breaker had, and I kept pressing it by accident. But I didn't feel in control. I felt like, an NPC with a controller in my hand. Like it's like CPU v CPU I was watching.
Yeah, the graphics are the presentation is beautiful. The graphics are awesome. But that right there, you're like questioning, okay, I just didn't even whip them off the ropes or didn't even hit Tilt-A-Whirl. And here it is. Is this a cutscene? Is this real? Am I even in control of this?
The only thing that was an improvement on No Mercy is the ability to land on wrestlers when they're in the middle of getting up, because that was always the big knock on the AKI games, or Aki games, or whatever you call them, was that, the second they were getting up, then you couldn't interfere with them, you couldn't grapple with them, you just have to wait for them to get up, and then you can initiate a stand-up grapple. But then, you could do the same thing in like SmackDown Here Comes the Pain over 20 years earlier. But I think this game actually does very well with the collision detection when they're getting up. Now, there are issues with collision detection elsewhere, but at least on that, I'm going to say one positive.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. But there's times in Revenge on N64 where the person's stunned, how they kind of get up slower or on all fours for a second or so. I would have Eddie Guerrero go up to the top rope because you can go through the rope and up to the top and hit the frog splashes. Like basically what Delirious used to do with what was it called? Hell's something, or he did a splash on the people's backs as they were like on all fours. It's kind of a cool move. But I don't even know if you're capable of hitting a move like that if the collision detection will not register it because he's not in the position and you're not here. And all these variables that make it complex and complicated.
Now, while praising that, I've also got to say what I really struggled with was sometimes when like you both running towards each other and both doing a move, the game would just skip so many frames and then just flip a coin to decide who actually hit the move first. So I didn't even know what was going on there. But anyway, graphics. Good, depending on the person, can actually vary wildly, of course, but the actual movement. What do you think of the movement of the characters?
Well, for being advertised with ragdoll physics, it's only when they're falling off certain things or falling. But I didn't feel like it was very intuitive. Obviously, you look at the older games. Let's go back to Giant Graham, New Japan Pro Wrestling 4, even the SmackDown versus Raw games. You're getting more of a blocky scan, not a 3D full body scan technology back then. But for some reason, it did feel like certain people punched a certain way. There were certain styles that were represented well. This feels like everybody just has the base. They just kept plugging the same programming to everybody's kind of boxy robotic movements. Did you feel that way?
I was thinking more like the walking, because they all look like, they all walk like that and all look like the crap themselves. But do you know what? That's the same with pretty much every game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the games just you're all walking like Vince down to the ring.
Yeah. Dude, what was the game? Was it like SmackDown Raw, the first one, where you could edit people's entrance? No, it was like before. It was like Just Bring It or something, where you could edit the way they walked to the ring.
Yeah. Well, no, SmackDown versus Raw did it too. That's where they had Brock and Taker coming out as the Bellas.
So yeah, or like Vince was like a ballet dancer or something, because we used to laugh our heads off at that, man. We loved it.
There's tons of videos of them giving the guys the female entrances, and it's very scary.
I've read complaints about lag on the game. I didn't get that, so I don't know if you did.
I did.
Where?
That's why I don't. Well, in the actual gameplay, like I said, I'm hitting the button at the exact time, but I still didn't block with triangle or square or any of that stuff, and it just felt like there was very much. I had a couple things happen, like for submissions and pins in certain situations, like ambulance match, Drew McIntyre versus Roxanne Perez, and Drew got completely squashed. So there you go. But that'll be at the end of the episode. There's a super cut of my frustration playing during the Patreon stream. So when I noticed pinfall submissions in certain areas of the ring, and I don't know if you're not in the center and you're near the ropes and it's trying to it's trying to render the ropes so they're near the corner and there's too many things. That's where me and Buddy got lucky and had everything kind of in the center. I was towards the corners of the ropes where I started to see a little bit of like herky jerky type stuff.
I had a quick go on island mode, or whatever it
Oh
might
my God, I just
whatever
read
it
the
is.
notes. I didn't even look at this. I have complaints of how herky jerky. I swear I didn't even look at that. Oh,
Oh, did you?
that's scary.
The mouth movements of the wrestlers, because it was Punk and Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes, and they got like 3 different like teams on this like island mode thing where it's all a bit spooky. The mouth movements on them, I would say, was Sega Saturn level bad animation. Like it was like, you know what's more realistic? If you drew lipstick and 2 eyes on your hand and then taught like that, that would be more realistic. And then just written CM Punk on your hand. That would have looked more realistic than what that was.
You should have had Conan O'Brien used to have the thing where they would put people's mouths and talk over photos.
Yeah, you might as well have had that. That would have looked more realistic. I like the ragdoll physics. Were you? Do you have issues with it, or did you like them, or did you say to me that you felt they were a bit of a crutch for them to hang, 2K to hang their hat on, to say, and like ignore a lot of other things?
I think it's just like EA and everybody else. Look, we gave you something, pal. There you go, pal. No. I think ragdoll physics, the thing I saw with a lot of reviews, I tend, with my early experience, to kind of agree with it. And it can be addressed in a software update. They need to tweak it a bit to not make it just be not a crutch, but it feels like in certain situations, they're like, look, ragdoll physics. Well, that's great, but what about all this? Ragdoll physics. I think they go and, much like WWE, they just beat you over the head with it way too much.
Let's go to the modes and the menus then. A major issue is picking characters because they're all locked. There's like 9 CM Punks, and you can only use one of them. But the thing is that here's what also gets me, among many things, is that you don't just pick CM Punk and then you pick his outfit or year. You know what I mean? You have to slog your way through CM Punk 2013, CM Punk 2009, CM Punk dressed like Bret Hart for somebody that no one's ever asked for, CM Punk as, whatever, dressed like the Bellas. It makes you look at these things that are locked out. And that is, I think, incredibly annoying and incredibly cynical to constantly remind you, hey, if you just paid a little bit more, Tony Gurria, then you could have had CM Punk dressed as AJ Lee or something. You know what I mean? They've left it in there to make it look as ugly as possible, but also to tell you that you're a cheapskate, pal.
Well, let's focus on that for a few minutes, because I was trying to kind of wonder. I don't know how you would approach it, but it isn't necessarily positive or a positive feeling when you paid $70 for the base game, or even especially in RGT 85's case, and a lot of people who spent $150 on the game, to look at that and say, not good enough, not good enough. But if you want to play this longer, if you want to spend another $77 here, $40 here, you could be good enough to look at this and play as these people. It gives a very, I don't know. It just gave me a very negative feeling looking at that, not towards myself, but there's only one word I could think of when I look at the number of, they don't even let you filter, like hide lock characters. You got to scroll through all of them to see what you're missing out on. It feels, for lack of a better word, and I think it's a theme for this game, greed. It just feels like it oozes greed when you see that.